Welcome to the Pet Loss Journals podcast. I am your host Louise. This podcast is all about the reality and impact pet loss has on our lives, and I will be discussing my personal journey through pet loss. So if you are struggling on your own pet loss journey, then this is the podcast for you. Welcome to episode 40. I am excited this week because at the end of this episode I'll be sharing something brand new that I have been working on very quietly in the background with a member of my team and the amazing Michelle. So that's a shout out to her. We are the dream team, but we work hard in the background to try and come up with new ideas, offering services for all of the pet parent community that have lost pets. And I will be disclosing all of that towards the end of the episode, but stay tuned if you are intrigued by that. But this week's episode 40, is from a journal entry the 28th of August 2022. Well, I'll just get going and I'll read out the journal entry. I've been really missing the dogs lately. I would give anything to be able to hug them and even to rub Oz's velvet ears. I do feel a lot better after completing the grief recovery method process with one of my family members. Working on a relationship with one of my family members. It was difficult, but I do feel a difference. I feel more calm inside about it. It's an amazing program. I cannot wait to start my business. It's going to be amazing. I know it. I have somebody helping me design a website. I've been designing social media posts, and that will be a massive help. It's full steam ahead, and I've never been more sure about something than I have about this career move. It's a full body yes, and my intuition is guiding me. It's never sent me wrong before, and everything is as it's supposed to be right now. I am blessed and lucky to be in the position I am in right now. I need to focus on that, but also communicating my feelings. Say the things that make me feel uncomfortable. That's how we grow. That is this week's journal entry, and what I think is really special about this is I can kind of feel growth here in this journal entry. Also, I mention that you would have heard me say about the grief recovery method program. And if you're listening for the first time, I am fully certified at an advanced level to help people with using, and the program I use is the grief recovery method program. You can look on the Grief Recovery Institute's website for more details about this specific program, and there's lots of specialists all around the world that facilitate these programs and help people. But I'm specialising in facilitating the pet loss program, which is amazing. But you would have heard me describe there that I used this program with a family member. So this family member is still alive. This family member is not dead. So you can use this program in all kinds of loss situations. So I don't have a relationship with this particular family member that I worked on. So in August 22 I did this work, and I was very adamant on starting off the work, the grief work. For the death of my two dogs, I wanted to work straight away on that, but the facilitator of the program, the trainer, encouraged me to look at the human relationships in my life first. because I was training to become a specialist, it was really important for me to not only work on human relationships, but work on the pet relationships that I've had. So it was really, really interesting to do this. And that's why I tell my clients that this work is interchangeable. And the skills that you learn from doing the program, you can do them on different relationships in your life, even without my help, because you'll have learned all the skills. But I did notice a huge difference. So not to go into too much specifics or in detail too much, but I was holding on to a lot of anger and grief over the loss of that particular family relationship. And by working through the steps of the program, doing the exercises, the written and reading assignments, I was able to get to a place of very little anger. I was able to release a lot of that by doing these steps. And I had probably been holding that anger for about 3 years and didn't kind of deal with it. So it was amazing. It was absolutely something that I had never ever tried before, because I had gone to therapy and I had spoken about it to friends and therapists and just talking, but doing these specific kind of action steps were really beneficial for me, because I think I'm that way orientated. I like to see an end goal when it comes to this is a program, and there's a goal at the end, and you have all of these steps, and as you progress through the weeks, they get more challenging as the weeks go on, and they challenge you to sit in the pain and to sit in the anger and to feel it and to process it, and the grief, obviously. That's why it was so amazing. And that particular relationship now, I'm not in pain over it. I don't feel any anger anymore. I really, really don't. And it's just been so freeing. Just that kind of sense of freedom has been amazing, from just learning this simple program, the steps in it. And okay, that the work that you have to do to get there isn't simple, it's hard work, but it's so worth it. And I kind of speak about, I can't wait to start my business, which is Light After Loss, which is, this podcast is part of it, and it's grown into something so beautiful. And it wasn't even born when I wrote that journal entry, so it was really lovely for me to read back and reminisce about it. And I mentioned that I did still miss the dogs and would love to hug them and rub Ozzy's velvet ears, because his ears were so soft and velvety. And that's okay, because I can still miss them. But I didn't write that I was experiencing any mad pain, panic attacks or anything like that. So it was pretty, it was lovely really to kind of read that. I want to just talk a little bit about the end of the journal entry, and the fact that I said I need to focus on communicating my feelings and saying the things that make me feel uncomfortable, because that's how we grow. So for so many years, some of you might have resonated with this, I was a people pleaser, and I just quietened my voice down to be appropriate for the situation. But as the years went on, and as I went to therapy on and off since I was a teenager, I learned that communicating my feelings and my needs then helped me to experience more joy in life and to have more genuine and honest relationships with people, be that friendships, family, romantic relationships, and that took a lot of a lot of practice, and I'm still practicing that, and I'm still learning how to do that, because I don't think it ever ends. You still have to always check in with yourself and ask yourself, if you're sitting there and you are deep in grief, missing your beloved pet, and you're feeling frustrated at how some family, friends, people have commented or reacted or not, and you kind of feel abandoned in your grief, or you feel that you have to push it down because their comments aren't helpful, and they may be telling you that just to get on with it and get over it. And if you're having to deal with that along with having to deal with the grief that you're feeling, it's going to be really, really difficult to navigate it, to not have that anger towards them. But when I mean say the things that make me feel uncomfortable, so even though we want to bury ourselves down and hide with our grief, I think, what have we got to lose by saying those things, even if you feel uncomfortable and scared saying them to people? Whether that's speaking up after a hurtful comment and said, you have no idea of the relationship I had with my pet. I don't expect you to understand, but I do not appreciate those kinds of comments. They're hurtful. That's something that you can communicate. If somebody says, which is very often, you can just get a new dog, like in a week or two you'll be fine, or you can go and rescue a new kitten, and you'll be grand, like that'll comfort you and you'll get over things that way. And having the courage then to, even though in the discomfort, but having the courage to say, you know what, that's not helpful for me right now, and that's not something that I want to do. I'd just rather grieve the death of my pet. My pet can be replaced by another. That's honesty. It's not rudeness. It's being honest. And I kind of feel once I've done something like that, or have said something and been honest with my feelings, that once I finish that sentence to the person, the fear of the response just melts away, because at that stage I've succeeded in speaking my truth and standing up and being proud of the relationship that I shared with both of my dogs, that I completed that sentence. And that is what really matters for you in your grief, because hiding our grief and pushing it down just makes it more painful. But if we have the opportunity to say one sentence about our relationship with our pets that have died, and we're claiming and we're just announcing that this relationship was everything to me, this pet was like a child to me, and who flippin' cares what they respond with? Most of the time they'll probably be mortified and apologise, and maybe other times they might know what to say and just the conversation is over. But what matters is that you've spoken your truth, and that you've verbally said out loud the value that your pet brought to your life, the impact your pet had on your life, in whatever way that comes out. So I hope that by me reading this journal entry can give you the strength to stand up for that fucking beautiful relationship that you had with your pet. And And that's the fact of the matter, because it was, and it still is beautiful, and you can still connect with your pet. Like all of the ways that we speak about over the different course of the episodes. And I think that it's just knowing that you're connected with your intuition and that it's guiding you a certain direction, and just to listen in. Once we come out of the early stages of grief and kind of the numbness starts to fade a little bit, we can get in contact and in connection again with our intuition and regain our strength and be able to nearly fight for that relationship and tell people that no, this was the way it was, and I don't appreciate your opinion on it. Lots of people don't have an iota of the amazingness that you had with your pet, and look, that's okay too, but I hope that was somewhat helpful to hear. And I mean, I've been there, I've had the comments thrown at me, I've had people close to me, show up on the day or two after the death of my dogs and then absolutely abandon me. Abandonment, like completely, just I'm left alone. Which when I look back now, it's still that still really, really hurt, and it's something that I have to work on myself. Being left and abandoned in your grief, even though you've communicated your feelings and the experience you've been having, the symptoms, all of the difficulties and challenges that comes with grief, even though you've communicated that and you still have been abandoned and not supported, can be absolutely devastating. I've been there and it's horrific, and I think that a part of me will never get over that somebody very close to me just walked away, left me there while I had to deal with all of that and navigate it. So if that is something that you're going through, my God, does my heart go out to you. And I hope that these episodes bring you some comfort, because you're not the only one that this has happened to. I speak to people on social media and on Zoom all the time that experience things like this, particularly with their family, who they thought were the ones out of everybody that would understand. But that's not the case. And whether or not you're experiencing that or not, it's still valid to talk about that on this podcast, because it happens and it's absolutely shit. It's terrible. It's terrible to be left alone like that, because I think ultimately it's because this form of grief is just so unrecognised, and people just refuse to see it as a real form of grief. They don't validate it, they don't acknowledge it. It's disenfranchised, it's all of the things that I've mentioned on all of the episodes, and I wish that it wasn't, but I see you, and I've been in that position of being abandoned in my grief, and it is so painful. But if there's one thing that you can do right now, is that you can wrap your arms around yourself and give yourself a comforting hug, and just say some things out loud that help you connect to your pet. Tell them you love them, tell them you miss them. Even if you're bawling, crying, that's okay. The important thing is that you take 2 minutes out of your day to give yourself some comfort. Rub your hands up along your arms and hug yourself basically with your arms, and just say, I can be comfort for myself in this moment, right now. I know it seems silly, but it's something I've done. And you know what? It helps for those moments. It does. It definitely does. So I'm going to leave it there for the journal entry. And it was a little bit of a deep one, and I was happy to chat a little bit about my personal experience with that, and I hope that you resonated with it, or sometimes I hope that not, because it can be, certain things in the podcast can be very, very painful things, like that abandonment kind of topic, and I may do a Patreon episode on that particular topic, and just to delve into it a little deeper and give more specific examples maybe of my personal experience of it. So keep your eyes peeled over on Patreon for that one. But I said that I would make a small announcement towards the end of this podcast, and wow, I can't believe that we're in the first week of July. It's the 5th of July and time is flying. We are fast approaching the 1 year mark, the 1 year birthday of the Pet Loss Journalist podcast, and I'm excited for that. And I think that I have been trying to see if there was a way that I could get grief information, education out to people, and pet loss support out to people that need it, because there is only one of me, and to the best of my knowledge I am the only person kind of offering specialised pet loss support in Ireland at the minute, and there are some specialists in the US and in Australia, which is incredible as well, but in Europe and kind of Ireland I can't find much other specialised pet loss support, and I think that there has to be something else that I can do. And after many months of planning, I have created and designed these beautiful workshops that you can purchase. And why I wanted to create these is because these are like a self-guided way to begin processing your pet loss grief. And what's special about these is there's added bonuses within the workshop. You have lifetime access to these workshops as well, and they're in different topics, so it's just going to be something that if you have been listening along to these episodes and you have been wondering, I would love to kind of get started with some kind of pet loss support, this is definitely a great way for you to dip your toe in, to taste kind of how it might feel to begin slowly but gently begin processing the experience of what happened, the events leading up to it, following it, and just at your own pace, kind of saying hello to your grief, basically, if that's a gentle way to put it. And I worked super hard on these for months, and they are a mix of education around grief and then really helpful skills and advice and tips and actual things that you can do, like practical action that you can do. It's not just sitting there watching a video. There are steps throughout the workshop that you can do, and there's something beautiful at the end of the workshops that I have designed myself and recorded, and it's something that I never thought I would do, but you will find out pretty soon. But the first people that will get access to these workshops will be my newsletter subscribers. So if that is something that you want access to, you can add your email to the mailing list, which is linked in the show notes, and you will be the first to be able to access these wonderful workshops. So yes, I hope that has kind of brought you some hope. Maybe it's something of interest to you, that you can start your grief journey that way. If anybody has any questions about them, my email is always in the show notes. You can reach out to me or message me on social media. I've been receiving such lovely messages about the podcast and lovely comments underneath the episodes in Patreon, so thank you so much for those. And there is quite an interesting episode coming next week on Patreon as well, which are all the lessons I've learned from 2022. So, because the last few episodes of these journal entries were from 2022, so next week's Patreon will be all of the lessons I've learned throughout 2022 and how I've grown within that journey of pet loss grief. So that'll be an interesting one to listen to. Thank you for listening if you've gotten this far. I really do appreciate it. But I hope that you've resonated with something here and that you are just not putting yourself under too much pressure while you're going through your pet loss grief, no matter what stage you're at, whether it's new, whether it's a couple of years ago it happened, or whether you're anticipating pet loss. Just, there's no need to put so much pressure on yourself, and just kind of go easy, be gentle with yourself. And I will speak to you very soon. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this week's episode. Remember, your pet loss grief is real, and it is so valid. Please be gentle on yourself. Until next time, take care.